Hello everyone, how's it going, and welcome to my first video for patch 4.0. and there's only one place that we could start. That is the release of the brand new champion Zoe. Now Zoe is an AP mid lane mage that does a lot of damage and is quite easy to pick up but very difficult to master. So make sure you watch this video for all the tips and tricks, combos, build and everything like that. Timestamps are in the description if you want to skip to any of that. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel because there is a lot of content for patch 4.0. We're going to be doing loot boxes, we're going to be doing the new skins, all the new changes, the buffs, the nerfs, everything. We're going to look at absolutely everything for patch 4.0, so make sure you stay in tune. But as I said, first thing we're going to do is take a look at Zoe. First, let's take a look at her abilities. First up, we have her passive, which is more sparkles. So after using an ability, Zoe's next attack deals additional magic damage, and the more sparkles deal damage instantly and deal 50% damage to structures. So that's to do with like auto attacking in between spells. Now this is actually really common with Zoe, is that you want to make sure you auto attack between using your abilities. Now your first ability, which is what I'll get to in a second, has two parts to it, and that means that you can auto attack in between using each part. So for example, my first ability, I use it once, I auto attack, use it again, auto attack. You can see the auto attacks are very different. The basic attacks are just like this. If I use an ability, it's like a slam. You can see like both of them are basically going, both her hands are basically going forward. So that's the additional damage that you get during auto attack. As I said, really important during the laning phase. You can use the first part of the ability, auto attack, before you use the second part of the first ability, and then auto attack again, and that will give you your basically two empowered auto attacks, one after the other, which is very important for trading during the laning phase. Speaking of the first ability, let's talk about it. Paddle Star. Very difficult ability to understand, but hopefully I'll explain it as easy as possible. So Zoe fires a star that deals increasing damage the further it travels to the first enemy hit, dealing between blah blah to blah blah basically based on range. You basically get an amount of damage based on how much range you get. Enemies surrounding the target also take 80% damage, and Zoe can recast the ability to redirect the missile to a new position near Zoe. Now the most important thing to note about this ability is if you manually aim this ability, it will always start behind you. Every single time, it will always start behind you. Doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter where you walk, the first one will always start behind you, and when you reactivate it, it will always cast in front of you. That's the basics of Zoe, but there are a few things that you can do with Zoe to make this a little bit easier and a little bit quicker for you to hit. Now obviously the range means you're not going to do that much damage, but if enemies are very low on health, instead of using the first ability behind you, what you can do, you can aim your first ability in front of you and then quickly use it. That will quickly proc your first ability straight away. Again, it won't do that much damage, but maybe you need a little bit more damage to finish off an enemy. So use the first ability in front of you and then just tap it again, and you instantly get to cast it straight away. Now you can do a flash combo with your first ability as well. Obviously, as it says, the further it travels, the more damage it's going to do. So say for example, I want to hit this target all the way over there. I use my first ability, and I use my first ability again. Okay, you have to make sure you don't manually aim the first ability, because if, as you can see, if you manually aim the first ability, you can proc it in a direction that you don't want to. So most of the time you have to manually aim the ability unless you're target locked onto an enemy champion. So I'll try again. First ability into first ability again, and then flash, and that will instantly proc obviously your second ability as well, to make sure that you get the extra little bit of movement speed. But also it's really important to note that the later you flash, the less time the enemy has to react. So say for example, the enemies are really low on health, you can use first ability into first ability, wait until the last second, and then flash, even though I completely missed it because I was out of range. And then flash. There you go. As you can see, you can instantly flash, and it will reduce the time, or reduce the travel time really, to when Zoe is going to hit her first ability. So very important. So yeah, every single time you activate, it's going to be behind you, then in front of you, but you can manually aim it at any point. You can manually aim it wherever you want to. So manual aiming, I would say, is probably easier to use, but you can do it in, you know, other ways as well. You know, you can just tap cast it if it's easier for you. Right, on to the second ability. There's a lot of stuff here. It's not as complicated as what it seems. Right, enemies drop spell shards when casting a spell. So basically this means that when an enemy uses flash or ignite or smite, they will drop a little spell shard on the floor. This spell shard you can pick up and you can use with your second ability. So your second ability basically gets replaced by a summoner spell. This ability is going to be absolutely broken in Wild Rift because There's so many summon spells that get shoes. Everything is on a very, very low cooldown, so you're going to keep using this ability over and over again. Or you can get it from when they're using a boot enchant as well. So you can also get like free stasis, free lockets, free anything that you want to. Specific minions also drop spell shards. So most of the time it's going to be cannon minions. You want to basically level up this ability like second. You want to start with your first ability, then your second ability. This will guarantee that you're going to get a spell thief drop, so you can play aggressive, because you're basically going to have an extra summoner spell at level 2 during laning phase, which is kind of broken. Also drop a spell shard when Zoe or a nearby ally kills them. Zoe can pick up this shard to cast that ability once. Also another passive, when Zoe casts this ability or any spell, she gains movement speed for a few seconds and tosses it's funny how it says tosses 3 missiles at the target she attacked most recently. So if I attack this target dummy and if I use a summoner spell, you can see there's 3 little orbs around me that get used, and as you can see, they just all go towards the enemy champion. Very, very simple. Each of these deal magic damage, blah, blah, blah. Active is that you can cast the ability of the spell shard when picked up. Spell shards last on the ground for 20 seconds. That's actually quite a long time. And each missile can apply more sparkles, which is obviously the passive. So you basically you can basically just flash auto, that will proc your passive, ignite, obviously your passive, keep flashing. You can basically just keep doing this. Honestly, it might seem really weird because I basically have 0 cooldowns, but honestly, this is what team fights will look like. So we'll flash, auto attack, use abilities, flash again because she picks up another flash over here, maybe uses ulti, use her first ability. Trust me, it's gonna be busted. Anyway, moving on to a sleepy travel bubble. Her third ability is so Zoe drop kicks a bubble. Does she actually drop kick a bubble? I guess she does actually drop kick. Never knew that. So Zoe drop kicks a bubble, dealing magic damage and lingering as a trap if it doesn't hit anything. The bubble's range is extended when flying over terrain, which I'll talk about that in just a second. So after the delay, the enemy victim falls asleep for a few seconds. Attacks and abilities hit them, waking up, dealing bonus true damage. Before the target falls asleep, they are drowsy, becoming increasingly slowed by 30%. Again, pretty easy ability to understand. Basically hit an enemy, you can see that there's a little circle that goes around them. That's when they're drowsy, and when that circle completes, that's when they fall asleep. As it says, it will be extended when you go through terrain. So as you can see here on the mini map, so I can basically hit this target dummy all the way over here by using it through terrain, and that means I could use my first ability maybe to hit them over here like that as well. So many different ways that you can use your third ability, but there is a lot of crazy terrain that you can pull this through. As you can see, I can use this all the way into the bush if I want to, and then use my first ability over here like this, and then hit them over there. There's crazy possibilities. And obviously Wild Rift is a very, very small map, so it's very, very easy to just, like, you know, use it under tower if you want to, use it behind, so you can basically stun someone on the tower and then do a lot of damage, so you can harass them under tower. Many different ways that you can use your third ability. Obviously, if it doesn't hit any terrain though, you can still, if it doesn't hit an ally or enemies, I should say, you can still use this as a choke point. As you can see, it just drops a little circle, and that little circle, if an enemy walks through that circle, that means that they're going to get drowsied and also slept. So you can also use this at choke points. You don't actually need to land your third ability most of the time, but the most important thing is that using it at a wall is the most important. And then we have portal jump. Very, very simple ability, but has loads of core unique ways to use them. So Zoe teleports to a nearby position for a second. Afterwards, she teleports back, and Zoe can use an ability and attack, but can't move during this time. So you can use your ultimate auto attack. This will proc your passive. Very, very easy way. You can just, like, you know, ulti into auto attack, into first ability, into auto attack. Really, really simple if you want to do that. It can extend the range of your first ability. So really, really simple combo is first ability into first ability and then ultimate, and that will instantly increase the range. So say for example, if I want to hit the raptors over there, first ability into ultimate, and there you go. I can extend the range and hit the raptors all the way from pretty much back here. So it's pretty busted, as you can tell. You can also use this for vision over walls as well if you want to just quickly look out for vision. This does have a relatively short cooldown, like as you can see, about 3 seconds, which is a very, very short cooldown, but you have to be very, very careful because you can still get caught by CC even if you travel backwards. It's a really, really cool ability. You could even use this to, like, get to terrain that you want to, and then maybe use your third ability, so like you can do that to get your ability and then use your first ability and then look to try and, you know, catch them out when they are asleep. So many different ways to use your ultimate, which is really, really cool. Let's quickly talk about combos. There are some pretty easy combos, to be honest with you. The simple one is obviously landing your third ability and using your first ability to basically hit them straight afterwards. It's a very, very simple combo. You're not going to be able to use your auto attacks that much to proc your passive. It's a really, really easy way to proc electrocute. Third ability into ultimate, and then you can auto attack as well if you want to. If you do use your ultimate, you can auto attack whilst you're traveling and also use your first ability at the same time. If you want to make full use of your passive, the best way to use your passive: first ability, auto attack; first ability, auto attack; third ability, auto attack; ultimate, auto attack. I mean, this just basically procs your ultimate, or your passive, sorry, as much as possible, trying to get as many auto attacks in as possible. But sometimes it's not the most effective way. Like I said, if you want to be aggressive under tower, you can like use your ultimate, use your first ability very quickly, and then auto attack in between. The only thing is very, very difficult to do this. Actually, I just realized. Actually, it's not that hard. You have to manually aim your first ability. So if you want to do the combo where you use your ultimate and then use your first ability as well with your auto attacks, you have to basically manually aim the first ability like that. So you have to quickly manually aim the first ability, and that will quickly get you your first ability damage and also your auto attack. So you boy, I'm trying to wrap my head around trying to work this out. The ultimate into auto attack into manually aim first ability, and then you can quickly proc a little bit of damage. Obviously it won't be a lot of damage because you're not that far away from the enemy champion, but it's still pretty good. There's some pretty basic combos. There's not really any other combos that you can that you really need with Zoe. There were just some basic ones. Right, leveling priority. Let's talk a little bit about leveling priority. I kind of already spoke about it a little bit. At level 1, really easily, just go for your first ability. You want to push the wave as quick as possible with Zoe, and you can instantly just, you know, as soon as you enter the laner phase, just use your first ability straight away on the minions. This will give you your pushing priority straight away. That means you get level 2 quicker, and that means that you can also get spell thief quicker, and that is what we're going to get at level 2. We're going to go for our second ability, get spell thief, and then we'll be able to get a summoner spell, basically a free summoner spell, and this allows you to play aggressive. Doesn't really matter what summoner spell is. If it's flash, you can flash forward, proc your second ability passive. Exhaust, pretty broken. Ignite, anything like that. Allows you to play very, very aggressive. Obviously at level 3, we'll go for our third ability. If we catch anyone asleep, then we can obviously catch them off guard. We want to make sure we max our first ability first. This is pretty much our main damage output for our first ability, and then we want to go for our third ability. The reason why we go for our third ability is obviously the cooldown goes lower, the slow gets increased, and the base damage also gets increased. It's really important. Obviously your spell thief is not really that important. Movement speed, duration, base damage. Spell thief is not really, I mean, spell thief is basically there to pick up some of the spells. You don't really need like the extra movement speed. The movement speed is already a lot. The duration already lasts a long time. You already do a lot of base damage because you basically pick up some of the spells all the time. So that's why we go for our third ability second, and then obviously last level we max our second ability. So that's pretty much everything with Zoe in the gameplay wise. I'm going to quickly take you through the build with Zoe as well. Pretty standard AP build really with Zoe. I don't think there'll be any surprises with anyone, to be honest with you. Also, this looks really, really cool, by the way. I really, really like the way that everything looks. And here it is, Zoe's build, a basic AP build. Luden's Echo, first item, a lot of burst damage, especially with the Disordic Echo passive. Gives you a lot of base stats that you need. Ability power, maximum mana, ability haste, all absolutely great. Then you have, like I said, the Disordic Echo passive, so you can do a lot of AoE damage. Death Cap, huge amount of burst damage with Death Cap. Increase your overall ability power as well by 40%. For the boots, pretty much every single time you want to go for Ionian Boots of Lucidity, and then you can pick up Stasis. Protobelt is also pretty good because you can extend the range of your first ability, but I think most of the time Stasis is just going to be completely broken and pretty much the go-to really for Zoe. Void Staff, a lot of ability power and extra ability power with magic penetration. Infinity Orb as well. This is absolutely great for Zoe because when Zoe moves around, she's always looking for low health targets, which you're able to crit with Infinity Orb, and you're able to deal extra damage. We also get a little bit of extra movement speed, magic penetration, and a lot of ability power. And then as your final item, we go for Horizon Focus. Now, the reason we go for Horizon Focus is that it's very, very easy to get stacks with Horizon Focus. So for Hyper Shot, you apply one mark to an enemy champion when you damage them with a non-target ability from 500 units away. pretty simple to do with Zoe, because you're always going to be quite far back using your first ability and then using your ultimate to basically try and land your first ability from a very, very far away distance. You apply 2 marks for immobilizing them as well. So basically it's really easy. So all you have to do is detonate at 3 stacks. So all you have to do is use your third ability to stun them with the bubble, and then use your first ability from 500 units away, easily land your first ability, and there you go. You proc Horizon Focus. Very, very easy to proc and very, very easy to use. If you do not want to go for Horizon Focus though, there are some other recommendations that I can give to you. Morellonomicon is still pretty good, even after the little changes that happened to Morellonomicon. I don't think Awakened Soul Sealer will be that good because Zoe's ability is already on a very, very low cooldown. Cosmic Drive could be okay. Again, you already have a lot of movement speed anyway. You can maybe go for Banshee's Veil, which is quite good, especially with Zoe, because you're going to be in melee range quite a lot, trying to land like your bubble and your first ability. So if you do get crowd control, then you have that little bit of a spell shield there. Other than that, there's not really much else. You know, it's all about burst damage with Zoe. And speaking of burst damage, that's why we go for Electrocute. Electrocute is so easy to proc with Zoe. Your first ability damaging your auto attacks in between as well that you're going to be doing with your first ability. Your second ability, Spell Thief, when you use a summoner spell, that summoner spell will proc as part of Electrocute, and also little bubbles that go around you that will hit on the enemy champion, that will also count towards Electrocute as well. Obviously when you sleep, when you hit them with your first ability and auto attack, really easy to proc Electrocute. There's just so many easy ways to proc Electrocute, and it's a very, very aggressive summoner spell as well, or very aggressive rune I should say, that you want to go for with Zoe. Now the domination tree is an interesting one. I think Giant Slayer is okay. I think Scorch can actually be very good. If you want to play aggressive during the lane phase, I will probably play this myself because I play quite aggressive with Zoe, especially in PC League, and I'm very excited to play her as well. Scorch could be pretty good if you want to play very aggressive. I could see Sudden Impact being good, but to be fair, 13 magic penetration, I don't think it's worth getting. Obviously, it works on your ultimate because your ultimate is going to be a dash. It basically works as like a little dash, so you get that extra magic penetration. I don't think it's worth it most of the time though. I think it'll be either Giant Slayer, Scorch, or maybe even Gathering Storm if you want to play for super late game. Nullifying Orb, obviously we're building a lot of ability power, so it scales very well. If you're against any assassins, then bow plating could be pretty good. Other than that, don't really think any other runes are worth it here. And Nimbus Cloak. Now I need to test out Nimbus Cloak with Zoe's second ability, because I'm not too sure if using a spell on your second ability from Thief's Edge, a summoner spell, will count towards Nimbus Cloak. If it does, then I think it'll be very, very strong. If it doesn't, I'm not too sure if that's going to be the rune to go for. But saying that, there's not really any other runes to go for, to be fair. Hunter Genius, again, all your abilities are very, very low on cooldown. So I think it will just be Nimbus Cloak anyway. And even if you use your own summoner spell, you still get that little bit of extra movement speed to move around during team fights. And obviously for your spell, summoner spells, we got Flash and we got Ignite. So Ignite, you could just play super aggressive during the laning phase. Use that early Ignite, proc the spell Thief's passive, and then use the bubbles and use your damage to try and get an early advantage. So that is everything for Zoe. Hopefully you learned a thing or two from this guy. Let me know what you think of Zoe down in the comments. I will be streaming pretty much all day tomorrow on the new patch 4.0. I will be playing Zoe, we'll be playing all the new skins, all the new updates. So if you want to join into the Twitch chat, then you can do. Link will be down below in the description. Hopefully I'll see you all there tomorrow. But it is currently 1 AM for me here in the UK, so I will be going to sleep. So I will be live in probably maybe like 10 hours or something like that. I'm not too sure, around about that time, but hopefully I'll see you all there. Thank you all for tuning into the Wild Rift video, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.